St. Carlo Acutis, the gamer who became a saint. Imagine if the kid sitting next to you in class, the one who plays Pokemon, spends time on PlayStation, cracks jokes with friends, and even calls his mom's dog a giant rat, was declared a saint by the Catholic Church. Sounds impossible, right? When most people hear the word saint, they picture someone from hundreds of years ago wearing robes, living in a monastery, and praying all day. But one teenager shattered that stereotype. His name was Carlo Acutis, and here's the question. How did an ordinary gamer become the first millennial saint? Let's find out. Who was Carlo Acutis? Carlo Acutis was born on May 3, 1991 in London, England. Just a few months later, his family moved to Milan, Italy, where Carlo would grow up. If you met Carlo when he was your age, you probably would have not thought he was future saint material. He loved Pokemon, he played PlayStation, he enjoyed soccer, he liked cooking, he made funny videos, he teased his family's pets. In fact, he almost called his mom's dog a giant rat. Not exactly what most people imagine when they think of a saint. But beneath all those things, there was something different about Carlo, and that's what changed everything. Carlo loved video games, but here's where things get strange. Most kids want as much screen time as possible. Carlo limited himself to just 1 hour video games each week. Why would he willingly do that? Because Carlo believed that there was something even better than video games, something that brought him more joy, something that became the center of his entire life. That answer goes back to the day of his first communion. The secret behind Carlo's joy. After receiving his first communion on June 16, 1998, Carlo's love for Jesus and the Eucharist grew deeply. He started attending Mass frequently, he went to confession often, he prayed the Rosary every day, and he spent time in Eucharistic adoration. Carlo called the Eucharist his highway to heaven. Carlo believed that if people truly understood what happens at Mass, churches would be full every single day. About Eucharistic adoration, he once said, "When we face the sun, we get a tan, but when we stand before Jesus in the Eucharist, we become saints." One day, someone asked him what he did while praying before Jesus. His answer was simple. Sadness is looking at yourself. Happiness is looking at God. Those are pretty deep words coming from a young man, but Carlo's not finished surprising people, because while he loved prayer, he also loved animals. Carlo and the dolphins. Carlo loved animals, especially his dogs and even dolphins. On one boat trip, he prayed that he would see dolphins. Soon afterward, dolphins appeared. Coincidence? Maybe. But Carlo saw God's fingerprints everywhere in creation. During summers with his grandparents in Centola, he hiked through nature, played chess, listened to his grandfather's advice, and cared deeply about the environment. Inspired by St. Francis of Assisi, he even picked up trash while hiking. But maybe you're wondering, was he secretly living like a monk? Not even close. Carlo was a student just like you. He had homework, he had classmates, he had teachers. That's exactly what makes his story so amazing. At school, Carlo noticed something many people ignored. Some students felt left out, others were bullied, some had no friends. Most people walked past these kids. Carlo walked toward them. He made friends with students who were often alone. He stood up for classmates who were being bullied. He included those who felt forgotten. Teachers noticed that he was polite, punctual, respectful, and ready to help. His friends remembered him as cheerful, humble, and kind. Carlo was not trying to impress people. He was simply trying to love people the way Jesus loved them. And that love did not stop at school. Most teenagers dream about having more money, more gadgets, more clothes, and more stuff. Carlo could have had all that. His family was wealthy. But instead of showing off or focusing only on himself, Carlo chose to live simply. He volunteered at soup kitchens, he worked alongside the Capuchin friars, he served with the missionaries of charity, he bought sleeping bags and food for homeless people in Milan, and sometimes he used his own pocket money to help people in need. Most teenagers saved their allowance for themselves. Carlo used his to help strangers. Why? Because he believed every person mattered to God. Carlo was not afraid to stand up for what he believed. He believed every human life was precious, and every person was created by God. Even when people disagreed with him, he treated them with kindness and respect. One family friend named Rajesh was Hindu. Carlo never argued with him or forced his beliefs on him. Instead, he lived his faith with such joy and sincerity that Rajesh became curious. One time, Rajesh learned more about Catholicism and eventually chose to become Catholic himself. Not because Carlo pressured him, but because Carlo's life was such a powerful example. People may forget our words, but they rarely forget how we make them feel. And Carlo made people feel loved. But there was another way he touched thousands of lives, and it involves something many of us use every single day: the internet. Carlo was incredibly talented with computers. He taught himself computer programming while he was still very young. But Carlo had another idea for his talents. He wanted to use technology to bring people closer to Jesus, so he began working on an enormous project, a website dedicated to Eucharistic miracles from around the world. He researched miracles, collected information, designed pages, organized photographs, and built a resource that people still use today. That's why people call Carlo the patron of the internet. He showed that technology itself is not good or bad, it's how we use it that matters. The internet can spread darkness, or it can spread light. Carlo chose light. For a while, everything seemed to be going beautifully. His faith was growing, his friendships were growing, his project was helping people, his future looked bright. Then something happened that nobody expected. In 2006, Carlo became very sick. At first, people thought it might be the flu. Doctors soon discovered something much more serious. Carlo had an aggressive form of leukemia. He was only 15 years old. Most teenagers at that age are thinking about school, sports, friends, and future plans. Suddenly, Carlo was facing death. Many people would become angry or afraid, but Carlo's response stunned everyone around him. Instead of complaining, Carlo offered all of his suffering for the Pope and for the Church. The 15-year-old boy was facing a disease that could take his life. He was thinking about helping others. Even in the hospital, Carlo continued to trust God. Then he said something his family would never forget. "I'm happy to die because I have lived my life without wasting even a minute on things that didn't please God." Carlo had peace because he knew he had spent his life loving God and loving others. On October 12, 2006, Carlo Acutis died. He was only 15 years old. The world had lost a teenager. But heaven had gained a saint. Because Carlo loved St. Francis of Assisi so much, he was buried in Assisi, Italy. At his funeral, friends, neighbors, classmates, and homeless people came from everywhere. Many shared stories of how Carlo had quietly helped them. Some people didn't even realize he had been helping them until after he died. Carlo never wanted attention, he simply wanted to love. You might think that's where the story ends, but according to the church, it was only the beginning. Years after Carlo's death, people began asking for his prayers. A young Brazilian boy named Matheus Viana suffered from a serious pancreatic disorder that made it difficult for him to eat and live normally. After prayers asking for Carlo's intercession, Matheus was completely healed. After a careful investigation, the church recognized the healing as a miracle. This miracle led to Carlo being declared Blessed Carlo Acutis on October 10, 2020. The second miracle. A young woman from Costa Rica named Valeria Valverde suffered from a severe head injury after a bicycle accident. Her family prayed for Carlo's intercession, and Valeria made an extraordinary recovery that doctors could not explain. After another careful investigation, the church recognized this healing as a second miracle. This miracle opened the way for Carlo's canonization, the first millennial saint. September 7, 2025, Carlo Acutis was officially declared a saint by the Catholic Church. Think about that for a moment. A teenager, a gamer, a soccer player, a computer programmer, an animal lover, a kid who laughed with friends and made funny videos. A saint. And that's exactly why Carlo's story matters today. He shows us that sainthood is possible in our time too. St. Carlo Acutis reminds us that sainthood is not about being perfect. It's about putting God first. You can love sports, you can play video games, you can enjoy technology, you can laugh with friends, you can completely be yourself. But like Carlo, you can choose to make Jesus the center of it all. So next time your life gets difficult, the next time you feel alone, next time you're wondering if God is really with you, remember Carlo's words. God is always with us, even in difficult times. Don't forget one more piece of advice he loved to give. Continuously ask your guardian angel for help. Your guardian angel has to become your best friend. St. Carlo's story proves something beautiful. An ordinary kid can live an extraordinary life. And with God's grace, an ordinary kid can even become a saint. St. Carlo Acutis, pray for us.